There was a pause on the radio. Then Hale spoke again, quieter this time. "Angela Brooks saved my life in Afghanistan," he said, "and the lives of 12 men under my command." The street seemed to freeze. Keller blinked. "What does that have to do with—" "Everything," Hale interrupted. "Because if you think she's connected to stolen federal property, you're about to make the biggest mistake of your career." Angela remained perfectly still while the officers processed the words. Hale continued speaking over the radio, explaining in calm detail that Angela Brooks had once worked as a civilian cybersecurity analyst assigned to a defense contractor supporting special operations units. During a critical mission years earlier, she had discovered a breach in a classified system that could have exposed an entire SEAL team to an ambush. Instead of following normal bureaucratic channels, which would have taken hours she didn't have, Angela had directly contacted Hale's unit and shut down the compromised system herself. The decision had prevented enemy forces from tracking their location. 12 men had come home alive because of it. Keller's grip on the radio tightened. "That still doesn't explain the investigation," he muttered stubbornly. Hale's reply came instantly. "The stolen property you're talking about is a prototype encryption device assigned to her for evaluation under a federal contract. It was never stolen." Another pause filled the air. "In fact," Hale added, "she reported irregular activity surrounding that device 2 days ago, which means if you're surrounding her house tonight, someone either lied to you or someone inside your department is trying to silence the person who exposed it." A ripple of tension passed through the officers. Keller's confidence began to crack. Angela finally spoke again, her voice steady. "I tried to warn them," she said quietly. "Someone filed a false complaint to force this scene." Keller looked around at the flashing lights, the watching neighbors, the 10 police cars now feeling less like authority and more like evidence of a mistake. His radio crackled again, this time with the voice of the police chief himself ordering the scene cleared immediately. The officers slowly stepped back. Engines shut off. Doors closed. One by one, the patrol cars began to move away from the curb. Neighbors whispered in disbelief as the overwhelming show of force dissolved as quickly as it had appeared. Keller remained standing for a moment longer, staring at Angela, as if trying to reconcile the calm woman in front of him with the chaos that had just unfolded. Angela met his gaze without anger. "Next time," she said softly, "verify the story before bringing 10 cars." Within minutes, the street returned to silence. The last police vehicle disappeared around the corner, leaving only the fading echo of sirens and the soft rustle of curtains closing across Maplewood Drive. Angela turned toward her front door, but her phone vibrated again before she could step inside. She glanced at the screen and answered. Marcus Hale's voice came through, lighter now. "You okay?" he asked. Angela smiled faintly. "I'm fine," she replied. "But whoever tried to set this up just made a very big mistake." Hale chuckled quietly. "Good," he said, "because now we're going to find out who." And somewhere far beyond that quiet suburban street, someone who thought they had silenced Angela Brooks was about to discover that the one person they tried to frame had allies powerful enough to ruin everything. Before the story begins, imagine this: 10 flashing police lights turning the quiet street into a storm of red and blue. A woman standing alone on her front lawn while neighbors watch from behind curtains, officers surrounding her like she's the most dangerous person in the city. And then, one phone call changes everything. If you love stories where the truth destroys power, where courage defeats intimidation, and where the people everyone underestimates rise to shock the entire system, make sure you subscribe and stay with us until the end, because what happens in the next few minutes will leave even the officers wishing they had never shown up. The quiet suburban street had never seen anything like it. On most evenings, Maplewood Drive was peaceful, filled with children riding bikes, dogs barking behind white fences, and neighbors waving casually as they brought in groceries. But tonight, the entire street pulsed with flashing red and blue lights. 10 police cars blocked both ends of the road, engines rumbling, radios crackling with tension. Officers stepped out slowly, hands near their belts, eyes locked on the small brick house at the center of it all. On the front lawn stood a woman in her early 30s, tall, calm, and dressed in simple jeans and a dark sweater. Her name was Angela Brooks, and though the officers surrounding her clearly believed they had cornered someone dangerous, Angela looked anything but afraid. She stood with her arms folded, watching the officers approach as if she had been expecting them. Curtains across the neighborhood shifted as curious eyes peeked through windows. No one could remember a police response like this. Not for a robbery, not even when a fugitive had once been chased through the area years before. Yet here they were, 10 patrol units surrounding a single woman outside her own home. The lead officer stepped forward. Sergeant David Keller had been with the department for almost 20 years, and the tight line of his jaw showed he had already decided how this encounter would end. In his hand, he carried a folded sheet of paper that he treated like a weapon. "Angela Brooks," he called sharply. "Step forward slowly and keep your hands where I can see them." Angela tilted her head slightly, almost curious. "You've got 10 cars for one person," she said calmly. "Either you're very nervous or very wrong." The comment made a few of the younger officers glance at each other, but Keller's expression hardened. "You've been identified in connection with an investigation involving stolen federal property," he said. "We're here to bring you in." The words caused a ripple of whispers behind the neighborhood windows. Federal property? From the look of the modest house and the calm woman standing in front of it, the accusation seemed absurd. Angela let out a quiet breath and shook her head slowly. "You brought 10 cars for a lie," she replied. "That's going to be embarrassing later." Keller's patience snapped. "That's enough. Step forward." Angela didn't move. Instead, she glanced at the ring of police vehicles blocking the street, then back at Keller. "Before this gets worse," she said quietly, "you should probably verify who ordered this." Keller laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Nice try," he said. "We know exactly what we're doing." Angela studied him for a long moment, then slowly reached into her pocket. Instantly, several officers shouted, and hands flew toward holsters. But Angela simply pulled out a phone. She held it up so they could see. "Relax," she said. "I'm calling someone who hates wasting taxpayer money." Keller scoffed. "You think a phone call is going to change anything?" Angela's thumb moved across the screen. "Not a phone call," she replied quietly. "The right phone call." Across the street, Mrs. Harper, who had lived on Maplewood Drive for 40 years, pressed closer to her window. She had seen Angela move into the house 2 years earlier, quiet and polite, always helping neighbors carry groceries or shoveling snow from sidewalks. Nothing about the woman suggested criminal activity. Yet now, 10 police cars surrounded her home as if she were a threat to the entire city. Mrs. Harper watched as Angela lifted the phone to her ear. The woman spoke only a few quiet words. No shouting, no panic, just calm, measured sentences. Then she lowered the phone and slipped it back into her pocket. Sergeant Keller crossed his arms. "Finished?" he asked mockingly. Angela nodded. "Yes." A strange silence settled over the street. For a moment, nothing happened. Officers shifted impatiently. A few neighbors leaned further out their doors. Then Keller's radio crackled sharply. He grabbed it. "Keller." Static burst through the speaker, followed by a voice that sounded tense and rushed. "Sergeant, stand down." Keller frowned. "Repeat that." The voice came back louder now, almost panicked. "Stand down immediately. Do not detain Angela Brooks." Keller's eyes flicked toward Angela, who was watching him with quiet patience. "What's going on?" he demanded into the radio. The response came in a lower voice. "You need to clear that scene. Right now." But Keller was too invested to back away. "Negative," he snapped. "We have a warrant request in process. I'm not walking away because someone got nervous." Before the dispatcher could answer, another voice broke across the channel, a voice so calm and controlled that every officer nearby instinctively fell silent to listen. "Sergeant Keller," the voice said evenly. "This is Commander Marcus Hale." Angela's eyes softened slightly when she heard the name. Several officers exchanged confused looks. They all recognized it. Marcus Hale wasn't just anyone. He was a decorated Navy SEAL commander whose operations had been featured in national headlines more than once. Keller swallowed. "Commander, this is a local police matter."